All right. Hello, everybody. I think we are all ready to get started. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you all here. We have a very special program planned. This is the third event in our virtual roundtable series. So we are taking each week to highlight a couple of sections in this incredible exhibit, which I'll tell you all about. Um, Sorry about that. My camera was in the way a little bit. So this exhibit is called 40 Chances, Finding Hope in a Hungry World. It features the photography of Howard G. Buffett, including 40 photographs, of which we'll be seeing about 10 of them today. I will say that we have the other two previous roundtables that we've done are posted on our YouTube channel. So if you do want to check out either of those, you are more than welcome. And then, of course, we'll have our final event next week, which I'll talk about at the end. So these 40 photographs are meant to document the world hunger crisis as a part of a global awareness campaign. It is on display for only 10 more days through January 30th. And Howard Buffett traveled to 137 countries as a part of this project. The resulting exhibit is divided into 7 sections, of which we will be covering 2 additional today. And they outline really additional forces and factors that we have to consider when we consider things that contribute to hunger. The series was designed to bring, this series of events was designed to really bring this very global issue to a more local level. And so to do that, we enlisted the help of a couple of other organizations or groups within our community that are really living with this work and doing this work. And we're super excited to have them with us here today. I did want to see is Carolina here? Okay, perfect. Your Zoom name was a different name, so I just wanted to make sure that was you. The perk of doing things virtually. So
yeah, hello. I'm sorry. My laptop has some problems, so I have to switch it with another coworkers, but I am here. I'm present. So it's nice to see you, Abby, and everybody.
nice to see you as well. It's great to see all of you. I see some past participants from the last couple weeks as well. So very good to have you all. So what we're going to do, we have 3 amazing panelists with us today, and I'm going to start by just giving them the floor to introduce themselves and their work and kind of why they're here today. So we will start with Cynci Petersen, who is with an organization called Hope Venture. Take it away.
Hi, my name's Cynci Petersen. Like she said, I do direct the Hope Venture, and I'm going to share my screen here for a second, just to tell you a little bit about what we do. Like it says here, I am the director of the Hope Venture, and our purpose is that we're on an adventure to bring hope and dignity to the most disadvantaged people in the world. We're right here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we've been around for about 12 years. And we work overseas in these countries. You can see here, we started in India and Kenya and then Uganda, and recently we added Rwanda and Madagascar. We work in those areas because we target those in extreme poverty. And you can see this is kind of a little image of where those living in extreme poverty actually live. And the majority of them live in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. There's this little tiny little sliver that's the United States, which is important, but also we feel like the bulk of the need for our target is sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, and that's why we work in those countries. But we also work with people here. We've found it quite interesting that we're pretty passionate about helping people learn to be generous and to have fun, helping lives in lots of different areas, that as we grow to be really, all of us are givers and receivers. Sometimes we need some help, sometimes we're able to give some help. And we've really become passionate about helping people grow in their generosity and use that towards helping someone maybe overseas. We want to be a hub here in Nebraska of 10,000 people helping 100,000 people overseas. So we really don't seek grants a whole lot or anything like that. We work with people to help them grow in generosity. And not only that here, but overseas, we're trying to empower people overseas as well. So we work with local overseas partners to do education and health projects. We have a unique 100% model where everything that you give to our organization goes straight over to those projects that you give toward. And we have, like I said, a team of donors. And I wanted to share with you just kind of the cover of our latest catalog, which you also have my contact information there. If you'd like a copy, I'd be happy to send you one, or you can text me. That's my cell phone or my email. But this cover, we take our own photos. We sometimes get good ones, sometimes don't get good ones. You know, we get whatever we can, especially with COVID. Sometimes we haven't been able to travel as much lately, but this is a gal named Alice who I met last time I was in Kenya. We started in a new area in northern Kenya recently because while poverty overall is going down across the globe, extreme poverty since COVID has taken a rise for the first time in about 20 years. So we went to these folks, and you can see we try to show dignity with our people. I have a hard time sometimes finding pictures of the need as great as it is, because we really become friends with these guys. They're people we know. But Alice here, that's kind of her home behind there. You can see where she would be living. But we did a COVID relief project for them. We picked some people in the area that we thought we could just help get some food to for maybe a couple weeks, and just alleviate a little bit of their burden. But when I came to visit Alice, and we do that again through local partners, we weren't there during the distribution, but I came and visited later, and I found out they got rid of the food in one day because the need was so great that they invited everybody in the community. They had a big party. Food is in the village. Like they didn't have oil to even cook food. They didn't have enough rice to even we were giving basic supplies. And when I was there, her and her children had little rocks. They're called pine nuts, but they looked about the size of a baseball, and they were pounding them against the ground. And they'd pound them until they broke open. They would have like a shredded wheat kind of inside substance, kind of grainy, and they'd take a bite like an apple. I took a bite. It was like dusty and not very good. And that was what they were eating for every meal, because they were out of food. Like there was a drought. They just didn't have anything. And meanwhile, I went back to a hotel later and had food. And it's just, that's the kind of need we're working with. We're really working with those in very extreme poverty. And so we feel like with COVID, our purpose is even greater, because poverty in those types of areas is really desperate, and we feel privileged to get to do it.
Thank you for that incredible introduction. We will hear more from you very shortly. Let's go over to Carolina, who is with the Intercultural Senior Center here in Omaha.
Yes, thank you. So I want to share with everyone about, I don't know if all of you knows about Intercultural Senior Center, but we started ISC as a grassroots organization in 2009, and the focus has been from the beginning to serve the diverse elderly of our community. Site in South Omaha, serving at the beginning just the Latino senior population, but of course that was not the intention, and the name from the beginning kind of made it happen as Intercultural. The majority of seniors that we serve are Latino, and then refugees that come or they settle in Omaha. Of course, it's for everyone, but because of the services that we provide and because of lack of education and language barriers, that's how the organization has been able to help a lot of the seniors in our community. So our focus on the organization is we are a daily service organization. So no one stays overnight. We open Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. We provide transportation. 95% of the seniors that come to ISC come in their own transportation. And that means they bring it in the morning and they go back in the afternoon. We have many other seniors that drive themselves, that drop off by the family members, but transportation is a key in our organization. The other is also that with the transportation, we also provide social services, case management. We have a team of 6 staff members. They're helping constantly and every day to our seniors. We also have a healthcare coordination, which means that every day we take seniors to doctor's appointments, we pick up medications, we visit them at their homes to see how they're doing or what is it they need. We also have support groups in different languages. Mental health now, especially in the time of COVID, has been so important, essential. So we have support groups in 4 different languages, which are English, Spanish, Burmese, Karen, and Nepali. We have health and wellness. We partner a lot. Recently, not as much as we used to, but health and wellness is very important. So we work with students that come to ISC and they kind of learn about the aging population that we serve and how they can adapt their set skills to them. Of course, they do art and culture, they do education, they do, we have volunteers that come here and they work by giving ESL classes, technology classes. They do crafts, they do music, they sing. So what we try is to keep everybody involved in very, very inclusive. All the staff that we have is 25 and all of us except for 3 speak English in our native language. So it's a very interactive and active organization that tries to help all seniors in our community. We also offer a meal program. We have a partnership, we work with the Eastern Nebraska Office on Aging for the meal program, but we also offer it like breakfast every morning. The age group that we serve is 50 and over and above. And I know that for many is 50 is too young, but we have seen in the aging population that especially refugees, their health is not, when they come here, is very deteriorated. And so we have to open up our doors to that age group so we can help them out. We are the only food pantry for seniors. And so seniors can come to ISC and pick up their own pantry, but at the same time, we deliver around 1,500 to 2,000 pantries a month in the Omaha area to seniors. They have some mobility problems, health problems, or they cannot get out of their homes. So we are located on 55th and Center, which is very central. And so we have seen an increase of people coming from all over town to get services and programs. So as talking and hearing about, learning on a daily basis about how important it is to take care of our senior population, I think that is growing more than ever. A lot of families now work, mom and dad, and many times they don't have a time to take care of mom and dad. And so that's what we're here for, just to support families, but at the same time, help seniors to become a little more independent and learn something for themselves too.
Thank you so much for that. I will admit, before our advisory committee that helped us with this programming formed, I didn't know a lot about the Intercultural Senior Center. So super grateful to have you here. For our final introduction, I'll turn it over to Dr. Lindsay Hughes, who's with Douglas County. Take it away, Lindsay.
Thank you. And I am learning so much already. I'm taking notes over here so I can call you guys and partner with you. So this is very exciting for me too. So just a second here. I always, my computer is wired backwards. So it's always a little interesting getting into a Zoom presentation for me. So hopefully, there we go. All right. Douglas County Health Department is your local health department in Douglas County in Omaha, Nebraska. We are a metropolitan-sized health department. Basically, you get that designation if you have a population over 400,000. We beat that pretty well. As we're approaching 600,000 here in the county, estimated with our most recent census. So all of you are that live here in Douglas County are served by our department. So we're here for every single one of those residents. We are overseen by the County Board of Health, which is designated by the county commissioners. We also have representation on that board from other governance bodies. So we do have a county commissioner, we have city councilmen, and then we have representatives from the community that comprise that Board of Health. So we're really governed by the people of Douglas County. We have 4 divisions. We have community health and nutrition services. So when you hear about people out in the community giving vaccines from the health department vaccine vans, that's part of our community health and nutrition services. We also have a pretty robust WIC program, women, infants, and children. We have several sites across Omaha that serve our families for WIC. And we also have under that health promotion, which is kind of it ends up being a little bit of a catch-all, but they do programming such as tobacco cessation. They do a lot of education with the public. We have a number of community health workers that work under that program that are able to go out into the community to serve as a bridge, really, between the community and the health department so that we're better able to serve the needs that are out there. We have environmental health that's comprised of air quality, food safety, and sanitation. So we do all kinds of different inspections, whether that's a restaurant or a swimming pool. We inspect a lot of different things. We also have air monitoring equipment throughout the community that all feeds into a central location so that we can keep an eye on what's happening there and make sure that the community is aware as well of what's happening with the air. Epidemiology is a really, really long word for looking at patterns and trends of disease and health within a population. So that can mean a lot of different things. They're essentially the data people and the investigation people. So when you hear about contact tracing or contact investigations and those sorts of things, probably words that nobody had any clue about until COVID hit, and now we're way too familiar with them, I'm sure. But those are all under epidemiology. If you go to our Douglas County Health Department dashboard for COVID, you'll see all of these really fantastic graphs, lots of really good data, and that's all our epidemiology people who do that. And then we have admin and finance, which is kind of like everything else that gets done. We have our Douglas County Health Department website. It's very, very light down there, but it's basically douglascountyhealth.com, and you are welcome to visit that anytime you might want some more information about us. So I talked a little bit about these programs already as I was introducing you to the units or the divisions that we have. But something that I really wanted to let you know about is that we have, first of all, just added a new office, and it's the Office of Health Equity. And we're really, really excited about that because that office is going to be charged with truly looking at where in our community we have issues of equity, where we have the highest disparities and how we can better address those. So we're really excited. We literally just finished staffing it 2 weeks ago. So we are up and ready to roll with that. Something that's really important to understand about all of these programs that you see is that the social determinants of health undergird every single one of our programs. So even though we might be running these very specific programs with very specific grant dollars and things like that, we are always thinking about how we can address the root cause. So we know that upstream things like level of education, having safe and affordable housing, being able to access healthy foods, healthy and affordable foods, childcare, all of these things all impact health. If you don't have a good, solid foundation with your social determinants, it's very difficult for any of those other programs that we do to have success, especially long term. So I think we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into our panel discussions. But I wanted to just be very, very open and clear that, you know, when we're talking to a WIC family, you know, we're helping them get nutrition. But the fact of the matter is, if they don't have a safe place to live, maintaining good nutrition is going to be very hard, even with assistance. So how can we refer them or connect them to resources in the community that could help them with housing? You know, with clinic services, we have people coming in for immunizations. We have people who come in for sexually transmitted infections, lots of different things like that. And, you know, it's not just one and done, you're here, you get your service and you leave. There's a conversation that happens about, you know, the situations that they might have been in that have led to them needing to come in. So we take it very seriously to make sure that we're looking at all of those things. We also do periodically a community health needs assessment in conjunction with Sarpy-Cass County and Potawatomi County across the river. And basically we come together, we analyze a whole lot of data from our combined populations, and then we talk about all of that data with our community and different partners to determine what our priorities should be. The last couple of iterations, the focus has really been on mental health. I think the need for that's going to be even more important coming out of COVID, as it's really kind of just upended everyone's lives. So we do assess our communities and make sure that we're adequately reaching out to address those needs that are out there. So that's a little bit about Douglas County Health Department. I could probably talk all day about it, but I won't do that because I think we have something way more interesting in store.
Thank you, Lindsay. So that was a great segue, actually, just in terms of, you know, the whole point to me of this exhibit and what's made it so interesting is all these different intersections, and really thinking about the root cause of hunger or poverty or some of these things we're going to talk about. And so today I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera around, and you should be able to see here the first section, there we go, of the exhibit that we want to talk about. And as an introduction, before we kind of turn it to our panelists to highlight a few of these photos, I wanted to just share with you how the exhibit itself describes this section. And so the title panel here says that the oppression of women and girls is one of the greatest economic and moral dilemmas of our time. More than 2/3 of the world's poor are women. In countries mired in poverty, girls and women are raped, tortured, sold into prostitution, denied an education, and deprived of a future. These photos reveal the link between poverty and violence against women and underscore the urgent need for change. And so, again, as we talk about, I know the panelists here do different levels of work with people locally versus abroad, but I want to just reiterate that a huge part of this series for us was we didn't want people to walk away from this exhibit thinking, oh, thank God that doesn't happen here, because we do know that there's local ties to all of the subjects featured in this exhibit that are really important for us to learn about. So on that note, we'll just kind of go back through in the same order. So Cynci, I'll start with you. Could you tell us a little bit, you chose a specific photo, but you're welcome to kind of offer reflections in general, and I'll show the photos as you talk about them.
Yeah, I think he did a good job. I mean, obviously, of all these photos he's taken for this exhibit and trying to bring awareness that people do live differently in different parts of the world and in different circumstances. And I think, you know, all of us want things to be more right, more just, more fair for people. We're all trying to help people that are hurting or, you know, that have needs. And I think I happen to, you know, I do work overseas and see several pictures like or just encounter live a lot of pictures like this. And then in the next group, you're going to see as well, and have seen, you know, images like all of these. Certainly the one I was going to focus on, really just to focus on one, would be that one with a baby on her back in the field, because I think it just reminds us of the lack of choice that a lot of women have, a lot of people have all over the world about their circumstances. Women like that are laboring for hours in the hot sun. You can see that sun beating down on her. She's got a child. I think we've seen it not only in fields like that, but in, getting water, having to walk for, a long distance to get water and then to come back, and they spend their day doing that. And then they wake up and do it again. And I think he does a great job of trying to make us aware that we ought to keep fighting for what's right and fighting to help overcome, they lack opportunity for education when that's the case. Certainly, that's what this is talking about, the disadvantage of women not getting educated around the globe, like we have the opportunity here. And I think it's definitely true in more cases than we'd want to understand. And I think he just does a great job of bringing that to the light.
Thank you. We'll go to Carolina next. Carolina, is there a photo that kind of stood out to you or reflections you'd like to offer about this idea of how hunger kind of adversely can affect women?
Yeah, of course. I was looking into this all pictures and how it's kind of like a stage of life, little small children, but it's like the circle, the circle of life, you start as a baby, and as you get older, you go back into that age group where you need so much of help and support. I was I'm Guatemalan. I just came back last week from home, and it just broke my heart how our society has not changed much. It's so much poverty there. I mean, especially for women, they're the ones who work the most, and they're the ones who get less. And they do their jobs they do it in all kinds of fields. But the story about this woman who promised a job, and she ended up in prostitution just to get money and to bring something home, which it's a very not a unique, but it is a way of survival. There is no other ways, because there is not enough infrastructure in Guatemala to help women to be more self-sufficient in how to improve their lives, and not just their lives, but their children. A lot of times, because those daughters, they ended up choosing other things to do just because they need the money. I have seen with my own eyes where grandma ended up caring for those children that are there, and she's in charge that everything goes in home. And so, of course, the grandmothers probably, they didn't do any better, but now relies on them the weight of trying to help that daughter that needs to survive, because there is no other opportunities. And I think it's just because there is not sufficient organizations, they really do what they say they want to do to support the women in Guatemala. There's, as I don't know if you much about history, but Guatemala is one of the cities that has a lot of the indigenous living in villages. And they have overpassed a lot. I mean, they're getting more educating, but the school system doesn't work. The schools hardly have any teachers, any supplies, hardly anything. And the conditions they live with, like Cindy was saying, there's no water, there is no enough food. It's really, it makes you realize in this time of life, in times, I mean, it should be a little bit better, but it seems like it isn't. So talking about the point of view as an organization and seeing this person, Mirna, I can see behind the support that she has was nothing, or maybe just that mom that was behind her trying to support her, regardless of what she was doing, regardless of what she had to go through to bring some money to the table to survive. So, yeah, and so I came back from Guatemala with my heart broken because I can see that we haven't moved forward enough, you know, to bring women more up high and really value, you know, who we are, because it's not about who they are, it's about who we are. And we need to work harder in whatever area we are, because that still helps others that never had that chance.
Thank you so much, Carolina, for those amazing, very personal reflections. It means a lot. I think finally we will go to Lindsay. Lindsay, tell us a little bit about your reflections on this section of women in the exhibit.
You bet. And I just have to preload my conversations with the fact that it is so amazing to me the way art and public health really cross and connect, because it makes some of these concepts that seem far away and seem kind of hard so much more tangible. It makes the experiences so much more tangible to those of us who don't share that experience. So I think this is really cool. I'm just going to say that. I reflected on the picture of the young lady who is standing in the doorway. And what really strikes me about this picture is the paradoxes that are really present there. So she's in these kind of bright clothing, yet she's standing against this very dingy and dirty door. She has kind of this flat, almost hopeless look on her face, and yet she has this young, almost suggestive posture that she's taking within that doorway. Most of all, just how young this girl is, and comparing that to her forced role as a prostitute or a sex slave. It's just jarring to me to think about those differences. And when I look at this, I have to wonder so much about this girl's health and development. At this age, and I don't know how old this young lady is, but I am going to assume that she's going through quite a few changes with her body and her development. And the fact that, first of all, she probably has had no education on what's normal for your body to do, and what changes might be normal in her age, but also just how skewed that health and development likely is, because she could be one of the prostitutes in India that are kept in a cage so that they can't escape. So likely her nutrition is probably very poor. And just thinking about how that really, it impacts you for life when you are going through these developmental stages and you don't have what your body needs to support that. She probably feels a lot of confusion. There's probably a lot of trauma. She's likely experienced violence. If she happens to become pregnant, which is a likely outcome for those who are forced into prostitution, the likelihood of her losing that infant and actually dying herself, given her age, her likely health status, and her level of poverty is pretty high. So just thinking that this precious life could be cut short due to the circumstances that she's in. Let's say she is able to escape. She escapes her prostitution. It's likely that she's going to remain extremely impoverished for the rest of her life unless she finds significant help. As Carolina mentioned, having enough support organizations to help people who are coming out of poverty just isn't there. She will need help developing a skill, managing her health, addressing all of the trauma and the mental health impacts of what she's been through. And what also strikes me about that photo is that it feels like it's worlds away, and yet it's right outside of our door as well. So according to UNICEF in the United States, over 23,000 children were reported missing in 2019. And 1 out of 7 of those are likely being sexually exploited. So forced sexual slavery is not something that happens, half a world away in India. It's something that happens right here in our own backyards. And while boys and girls are involved, girls are actually more likely to be trafficked. And in public health, we often say it's important to think globally, but act locally. So that means even here, it's important to build avenues for people to come out of sexual exploitation, and to build systems that focus on rehabilitating, including access to comprehensive mental and health care, skill building, and really helping them find an avenue to not just escape their trafficking, but to pull them out of that poverty that they're going to find themselves in as they come out of that.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. While Lindsay was talking, I wanted to move over to the section on poverty. I do apologize for my angle here. I'm up against a wall, so it's a little bit of an awkward angle, but I'll zoom in here in a second. So the exhibit describes the poverty section this way. It says, poverty puts people at risk of hunger, disease, and violence, and forces them to make desperate choices to survive. For 1 billion people around the world who live on less than $1.25 a day, poverty is a daily reality. From a homeless mother in China to an impoverished boy in Bangladesh, these photos give faces to the statistics. So again, let's start with Cynci, and you can tell us a little bit about what photo kind of stood out to you here.
Yeah, again, just such a good description of the poverty that is around the world and is everywhere. Again, we work with people that are less than $1.90 a day in extreme poverty. So these images are similar to what we work with here out of Nebraska. And the one up and to the far right struck me just as you encounter these photos, just a reminder that if you think about that photo and even the description, he writes about the stench. And I think there's a couple things we forget. That one is the stench. That's a trash heap. When these kids are coming through, not going to school, picking through the trash, trying to get something to sell, say, for example, or to use. And so they are just all over that trash, and they have homes maybe right next to that trash, just a huge heap, and they would have homes right up against it and smell it all day long, every day. But then also what you can't see in that photo, often there's flies just everywhere, or whatever kind of bugs or whatever, and they just get used to it. I mean, I've been in areas like that where you're just kind of swatting your face left and right, and these kids and adults are just walking through there because that's normal. Like, they just have to live in that situation, and it's not right. And so, I think we're all trying to become more aware of what goes on in the world. And the awesome thing is we can do things about it. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but this is not just a look at this and, oh, like she said, oh, that's sad, but, oh, there's things we can do. And as you become more aware, I mean, I'd sit down with every one of you at one-on-one and talk to you about what can you do to make a difference in people's lives like this, because there are so many opportunities now to make an impact on the world and to change some circumstances. And that is a common scene, what you're seeing right there, what he depicted in that photo. And yeah, it's just not right.
Thank you so much. Carolina, we'll go to you next.
Sorry. I chose photo number 2 is the China photo, where this you can tell say homeless mother begs on the street for food. She has 2 kids and she has to feed those kids, and she's just at the same time she's making sure that those kids around her stay put, that they don't run away, because once they run away, they will never come back to her. They will disappear. It's trying to relate, we talk about homelessness. It's not, it's in the entire world. This is happening every second. People that have no place to live, regardless of the age. Could be kids, young, older, everyone. Not everybody has the privilege to have a place to live, and not necessarily with all the commodities, but at least a place where you can be safe. And I think that in other countries the generations, the mom and daddy will work to get a place to live, but as they have their children move away, or they stay in the same under the same roof. And that happens a lot, where if there are 3 or 4 kids in the family, they get married, they have children, and they all lived under the same roof. And then again, the older parents are the ones who have to take care of the errands or other things, because the grow-up children have to go to work. And I think that is going back to, there is not being the education piece is not there. There is not solutions to show how to grow and how to become more independent, and how to make happen those places to live for the families. As looking at this picture, I'm assuming that there's a single mom, dad was never around, or it was at some time, and now she has to make her living. And the other way she has is ask for money, because there is no system to back her up to say, where's those daycares that can take care of my kids? Well, maybe I can get trained, because maybe this person has big skills. We don't know. It could be young or older person who you never had a chance, and now they never develop some skills, but by learning, by having possibilities in cities where people can get educated, we can avoid this kind of illustration that we have. It seems here like mom has no place to go. There is no even hope in life. And what the future of those 2 children will be. Will they get a chance to go to school, or would they ended up like the other picture, going into the dumpsters looking for something to eat, and then get into other kind of problems like violence, or become the kids that all they do is trouble. So I think that is sometimes we see our own cities or countries that is so much going on, and here there is so much opportunities, and many times they're not taking, or parents don't not much about it, but even if they know, they don't understand the why. We have to improve the life of our kids and our families completely. But in other countries, is the hope is the infrastructure of those countries is not there, and so for the same reason that the mothers or grandmothers ended up being the ones responsible for everything that happens in the household. There is not a male around, and so they have to survive, and they have to work, and they have to do whatever it takes to bring food to the table.
Thank you so much, Carolina. Last but not least, Lindsay, could you offer up your reflections as well, please?
Thank you. And actually, I was drawn to the same picture, that number 2 picture with the mom and the 2 children. And one of the things that really struck me there is that cyclical generational aspect of poverty. This mother has these babies tethered to her so that she can keep track of them while she's trying to find a way to feed them. She's more likely to have those children also be impoverished when they become adults. This kind of goes back to the previous section that we were looking at with women, but women, of course, are disproportionately impacted by poverty, as are children. But there are a lot of different factors that play into that. In a lot of countries, women's education is not not allowed or not stressed. Women oftentimes, especially as families grow, are kind of brought into taking care of those family needs at an early age. So you see the older girls that are taking care of the babies as mom is trying to, basically find ways to feed the family. And so they have responsibility at a really, really young age, and that precludes their ability sometimes to develop other skills. A lot of times you'll see women who are experiencing homelessness have disabilities at an early age because of the increased exposure to violence and trauma that may come along with some of the living arrangements that they have to suffer. They have increased household demands. So, perhaps there was a man involved, but he had to travel to another city to earn money, and he may or may not send that money back to help support the family. And here she's trying to take care of children and feed children and take care of the household. And now she has to figure out what she'll do with that lack of money potentially. And then for those women who do have, they may have a skill and they're working, but there are huge gaps in pay between men and women. And we still have that disparity even here in the United States. It's really unfortunate because addressing women's economic needs and homelessness makes a ton of sense. Women are actually more likely to spend their earnings to build the well-being of their households. So it's a great return on investment, besides the fact that it's just the right thing to do. And so I, was really just struck by the fact that she is in the cycle of poverty. She's got these two babies who this is what they're seeing as their normal. And that's what they're going to grow up knowing if she is not able to break that cycle. And it's most likely that they're going to end up in the same situation. And that's just going to continue to snowball and perpetuate. So it just really underscores the importance of taking care of those basics. I mean, you think about what this poor mom is going through. And what she's probably thinking at that moment. She looks pretty despairing, that look on her face. And she's probably completely absorbed in finding a way to get food into those children and figuring out where she'll take shelter that night. So of course you're not thinking about other things. You're just thinking, how can I get some food and some shelter? Those really basics. We see that same thing here in the United States. We have high homeless rates. We have homeless women and children in every town and city in this nation who are struggling with the same kind of challenges in terms of how am I going to feed my children? How am I going to keep some kind of shelter to keep my children healthy and safe? So it makes it just that much more important that we're focusing on, safe and affordable housing, access to nutrition, fair wages, affordable childcare comes to mind as you're seeing this mom who has to take her children with her to beg. We often can't take our children into the workplace, so without childcare, sometimes that takes away your options for working. And just making sure that we're working with partners to find ways to support families like this that are going through homelessness and poverty so that cycle stops.
Thank you. Kind of on that note, actually, Lindsay, I feel like you keep giving me good segues. We didn't plan that, but on that note, for all three of these panels we've done, we've kind of talked about the sections separately and then really asked for some reflections on how these two connect. And I have found with all three that it's impossible not to connect these topics to each other. The first week we talked about hunger and water. That one's pretty obvious. Guns and fear, that's fairly obvious. But as you all are talking, it's just impossible not to connect women in poverty because they are adversely affected. So what I'd like to do, though, is to go back around one more time, kind of in that same order, and just ask for any additional reflections on how these two topics really do relate to each other. in, the communities and populations that you all work with?
I think I'll just share that they're completely related. Their poverty and women are just, it goes completely together. And I think I just want to share, if you're attending this, there's so many different needs. And Lindsay was just sharing, we have the same homelessness here, we have mental health issues here, we have issues everywhere. And so I think it'd be easy to just watch and, oh, that one's bad or that thing's not so good. And at some point we just got to pick and realize, I've been exposed to this in some way. Maybe I can make a difference. I didn't think I'd be helping overseas like I am, but I somehow got exposed to it. And so here I am. But, if you're listening to this panel today, maybe there's some reason and something you can do to help somebody homeless in your community, or maybe somebody overseas that you can help, because they're, we talk about 4-year-olds doing lemonade stands, or we've had people give $100,000 to do something, bigger. But whether it's a small thing or a big thing, or, Howard Buffett used not just money, he used art. There's so many different ways that your talents and your resources can be used to affect the world. And we need it. You can see in these photos, there are needs all around us. And so I think I just want to thank Durham and the panelists, and then you guys that are taking your time. You could do a lot of things over a lunch hour, but you're choosing to be here and try to make yourself more aware of needs around the world. And I think Durham for exposing this. And, I forget that not everybody has seen images like this. Not everybody has encountered this. And, we live in a society where we can make a difference to these things. So to bring them to light like this, I just want to thank you for doing that. And it's a privilege to just be here today.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being here to kind of help highlight your organization as well. Carolina, any kind of closing thoughts on, the connection and anything else you want people to know?
First of all, Abby, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to share with others about what ISC does in the community. I believe that we all as humans, we never realize the privileges that we have, in life, and what a good life that we have. And I think that for some reason I still connecting being home and seeing so much is like, I'm so lucky and blessed. And at the same time to work with other organizations that I work a lot with, that they, as nonprofits, that each one of us have our own desire to support different groups. But at the end of the day, we are all connected. And for me, working for the aging community is something big, because I think that it's so many times there's not paying enough attention to people, regardless of the background, that people are aging and they have so much needs, and it could be food insecurity, it could be loneliness, it could be housing. I mean, still, but and realize that if we're trying, in my situation, we're trying our best to serve all seniors and give the best of us. I think about people around the world that don't have that privilege, that they're getting old, that they don't have a place to live, that they get ill, that there's not enough hospitals, that they, instead of them resting for some time, they have to continue to work hard, because they have to help to maintain the home that they live in and to take care of their children or their kids or everything. So I think it's what you did here, you're doing here for the all group is eye-opening, and it's something that we have to have those conversations with everyone, because that's how it's going to open up their minds, in their hearts, in their interests, to maybe support overseas a group of people, or maybe in our own communities, to think about how easy our life is, but how others are struggling because of lack of education, because of lack of conditions. And so I just want to say thank you, and I hope that what I share with ISC kind of help others to understand what we do. for the community, for the aging community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carolina, for being here. And we will wrap up. I have a couple closing comments, but I'll turn it over to Lindsay for her closing thoughts.
Thank you. And I promise I'll be fast. So I agree. You can't look at these images of women and poverty and really separate them. They're so intertwined. And really the well-being of a community is very tied up in the health and well-being of women. And what I would really hope that everyone walks away from this with is some sense of connection. So we're all wired to connect, and that's really what it takes to improve health in a community, or to improve the well-being of our fellow humans, really is feeling some level of connection to them. I hope that these photographs helped you to connect maybe to some of these themes. And I would challenge you that the next time you're around town, that you maybe look a little bit harder to see what sorts of things might be obvious here in the community in terms of poverty, and not even just women, but really everyone. Looking at some of the circumstances and some of the different things that lead to those big disparities and inequities in our communities, and then find a way to get involved, to really find a way to help address these. Omaha, I have to say, is my all-time favorite community for just how collaborative and connected people do tend to be here. So jump on that, get involved, and find a way to improve that. And the more you improve, those who are suffering the most in your community, it really actually elevates everyone. So it's good for everybody to address these things. And I too just want to add my thanks. I'm actually very passionate about art and health. I was an art major to start with, so it's always fun when I get to kind of pull in that piece of my past and kind of mix them together. So thank you so much for the honor of being on your panel today. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Well, one more thank you to all of our panelists. This series, this is, like I said, the third one. I know has been super educational for me, and we've had this exhibit booked to come here to the museum for quite some time, and so the way that it fell, even just at this point in the pandemic and other things going on in the world, and being able to get these organizations together has just been an incredible experience. And on that note, next Thursday will be our final one. We are going to wrap up with the final section, which is titled Hope. I'm very much looking forward to that. Our goal is to have at least one panelist or a couple panelists from each of the previous sessions come back and join us. There's several photos in that section, so we'll again offer up photo reflections, kind of talk a little bit more about how you can get involved if you're feeling inspired, but also highlight some work that has happened in our community, and some of the hope that we're seeing locally. So we hope very much that you can join us for that. Thank you again to our panelists, and everyone have a great rest of your day.